Hey guys, Mike from Job Ready English here. Today we're going to talk about Kpmg's video interview, which is also known as their immersive online assessment and comes straight after their online tests.
Apparently someone has an exam.
Don't forget, if you want more videos like these, to comment, like, subscribe to the channel and press the bell so you get notifications when we release videos at least every Friday. And be sure to stick around until the end when I'm going to tell you why Kpmg's assessment is actually different from the Big Four and why that's so important.
It's not the same.
So in 2019, Kpmg grossed £2.4 billion, which was a little bit off PwC, who are sort of a front runner. They did about $4 billion for 2020, but they still employ 16,000 staff. They're a member of the Big Four, and they hired 1,900 graduates and apprenticeships.
I pledge myself to your teachings.
So the immersive online assessment is this kind of job simulations that we've seen really across the Big Four, to be frankly honest, apart from maybe PwC. And it comes after the initial online test screening and combines three elements. The first is writing an email, the second is video interview questions, and the third are Sjt questions. Now, if you've watched our other videos, and we've already covered quite a few companies, including the rest of the Big Four, you'll know that we really covered writing emails in depth when we talked about EY's job simulation, and we covered answering Sjt questions for PwC. So we're going to touch on that, but it's going to be pretty brief. As ever, we're really going to spend most of our time looking at those video interview questions and understanding how we can answer them and kind of talking about different ways and strategies to answer those questions effectively.
Let's go!
So when we talk about writing email, this is something we're seeing of more and more, and essentially writing email is just about how can you communicate complex information in a simple way. So you're going to be given some graphs and some tables and some different bits of data, and you're asked to write a summary, probably with a recommendation. And we've seen this a few times with different case studies. This is a reoccurring theme. So if you're applying for a technical graduate role, particularly in professional services, this is a good skill to hone, at least to get through the assessment stage. When you're sitting doing your assessment, make sure you have a pen and paper to hand, something that gets forgotten quite a lot. And I always say, look, have somewhere that you can make notes, because short-term working memory only can store about 3 to 5 pieces of information, and you're going to be getting a lot of information which is just going to go and it's going to be just pushing stuff out of the other side. I'm pretty sure that's not the neuroscientific term.
Really, the only word for it is...
So be clear on the problem and what you're going to solve. And when thinking about the email, and again, if you want to watch more about this, go over and watch my EY job simulation. Just think about the introduction. So what are you responding to? Who are you? What information are you kind of about to lay out? So this is kind of the recommendation, the aim that we see in presentations or writing business reports. The body, which is sort of each paragraph to contain the responses or answers to the questions or the different elements of information. And then finally to say, well, what's next? What do I suggest that you do? What's the information that I need? What the information do you need from me? How can you contact me? And sticking to that really simple 3-part structure is a good way to formulate those business emails. It is relatively informal, but it's good to just have that structure and that outline laid out. So let's talk about video interview questions. And as usual, we're going to spend the bulk of our time here. You're probably going to get asked 4 to 5 different questions. So we assume 2 to 3 minutes to respond and 1 to 2 minutes to prepare. If you're unsure about how to prepare and respond to video interview questions, then check out a video about 5 steps to prepare for video interviews. and going through the scripts and preparing for that in 5 days, I think that's super helpful. So these questions are a standard mix of motivation and competency questions, which is great because this is pretty much what we've come to expect from big companies. They're sort of saying, why do you want to work here? Why do you want to do this role? And then they're going to test some skills. If you've never come across these types of questions, throw a comment down below. Let me know if you want me to make a more in-depth video about why questions and competency or behavioral questions. So we're going to pick out some of the most likely questions, and we're going to talk a little bit about the STAR format. If you want me to talk more about the STAR format and how I just sort of systematically break that down, again, throw a comment down below and we'll pick that up. So we're going to deal with a couple of different questions. I kind of picked out about 7 different questions that I think are sort of a high likelihood. So definitely you're going to get asked why Kpmg. So just think about that sort of five key facts. You can grab that from the annual report, from their business news, from Google, just putting something together so you can systematically say, these are the 5 reasons why I want to work for Kpmg, and make them as specific as possible. So whether that be the amount of hours they offer volunteering, or the money that they gave to the RSPCA, or whatever that is. I mean, this is all stuff that I just gleaned from about 2 minutes of having a look at their 2019 annual report. It doesn't have to be super up to date. It's preferable, the more recent it is, the better. It really doesn't have to be that complicated. It's something you can do quickly. We cover this in depth in our interview success system if you want to know more about how to do that. And of course, definitely you're going to ask why this role. It's important to familiarize yourself with their core values, which you can Google. Also, why this role? What will you be expected to do day to day? What's your kind of 9 to 5? What's the skills that you're expected to have? What's the sort of minutiae, the details? Very often this differs for kind of experienced roles, but for graduate roles, the job descriptions do tend to be quite vague. It depends on the company. You really get a varying, but I tend to find for the Big Four, the job descriptions are pretty vague. They're kind of salesy. They're just like, come and work for us because we're awesome. If that's the case, go and research them somewhere else. Just find that, audit graduate role and go and look at it on, whether that be on Target Jobs or Prospects or somewhere else. But do a little bit of lateral reading, do a little bit of lateral research. Don't just sort of sit there and think, it's too vague. I don't really know what to do. I mean, come on, Google's your friend, right? And again, not only why this role, but also why you? What skills and experience do you bring to the table? This entire process is about tailoring your skills and experience to the job that is required. So let's talk about a couple of different competency questions and things to think about. For those of you who watch my other videos, you'll realize that there's not too much new stuff, but we're going to cover it anyway and just think about really why are we being asked this and how can we answer this effectively. It's always worth putting together a list of common competency questions. If you want our list of common competency questions, which is something we use with our clients, stick it in the comments below. So tell me about a time you led or worked in a team. So what are we talking about? First of all, whenever dealing with competency questions, we think, what's the skill that I'm being asked to demonstrate? Okay, so I'm being asked to demonstrate leadership, or I'm being asked to demonstrate teamwork. What's the important elements of this? Well, the important elements is communication. So, when I was in my second year of university, when I was working as part of a group project, we were involved in putting together financial analysis for a company. We chose Huawei, what we had to do, and then you would lay out the things that really exemplify your teamwork. I like to think about this. So when you're talking about STAR, which is situation, task, action, result, the burden of your answer is in the action, and your action is centered around yourself. Very often people talk about what other people have done, or they go into great detail about trying to describe the situation of the task, or they can be very vague. This isn't particularly relevant because when you think about the simplest thing, it's just me saying, show me your teamwork skills. So I'm going to say, I did this and this and this and this. I'm not really bothered about you explaining what you did in your dissertation, or what day it was or what time it was. These are unnecessary details. Give an example of how technology will help you in your work. This is a fabulous question. We're seeing this more and more in terms of, new technology that you use, technology that you're excited about, how technology is changing the world around us. And of course, this is really a common element for all of the big companies who are, I wouldn't say increasingly, but more and more, they're concentrating on graduates who are technology focused. So do your homework. Do a little bit of commercial reading, go and have a look at BBC News, have a look at something like The Verge or Hacker News, Y Combinator, whatever it may be, but make sure that you're reading a little bit outside of your comfort zone. And if you use technology, even better. If you have technical skills, tell me what those are. So recently we've dealt with quite a few clients who are focused on technology, software engineering or artificial intelligence. And what I always say to those candidates is, how long have you coded for? What have you done? Explain it to me. Don't just say, I am proficient in artificial intelligence algorithms. I don't know what that means. It's like you saying, I can make a sandwich. What type of sandwich? Or I can cook. What can you cook? Well, I'm a Michelin star chef. Okay, so now we have distinctions and categories of information. Try to be specific and not to go into too much detail. What are your abilities that will help you adapt to the role? Awesome. So I'm just going to take that job description, I'm going to pick out the skills, I'm going to say, well, I've got really good attention to detail, or, I'm a fast learner, or I'm really good at working with people, and so on and so forth. This is something that seems to come up quite a few times, which is introduce yourself to new colleagues, partners, or the team manager. Something that we do with our clients is one of the first things that we teach them is how to do a personal introduction. Because for me, this is a really powerful tool in terms of learning to sell yourself. It's really difficult, right?
Allow myself to introduce myself.
So whenever I introduce myself to people, not that it happens actually that much these days, maybe I'm in the office or someone says, what do you do? And I say, hi, my name's Mike. I am founder of Job Ready English. We help international students succeed. We help international students find jobs in the UK through rigorous methodology, framework and data. I've done that for 7 years. I have 10 years management experience working across education, construction and retail, and I love what I do. And then I might talk a little bit about my experience, my hobbies. It's something to kind of think about when you're thinking about a personal introduction. Who are you? And give me a little bit of context. You might say, hi, my name's Steve. I've recently finished a biomechanical engineering degree at Warwick University. Okay, that's context. So what would you say before? Well, I'm from China, where I studied fluid mechanics at Nanjing University. You say, what do you want to do? Why are you here? So I'm here to work as part of the risk and analytics team. I have good proficiency around SQL, Tableau, Excel, and also Python. And also then you might talk about your previous projects that you've worked on, your previous work experience. But all the time you're kind of thinking about this goal, which is, I'm selling myself to be somebody who's effective, somebody who you want to work with, and somebody who basically knows what they're doing, right? Whenever somebody presents themselves, we really judge them as being effective or non-effective. Also judge people to be, entertaining or aesthetically pleasing. But in a work context, I'm essentially thinking like, are you effective? Can you help me to reach my goals? If not, I'm not really that interested in. And being able to present yourself in a really crisp and clear way is so important. Tell me a time you worked with somebody difficult. So this is the final question we'll look at, this kind of whole idea about conflict resolution, and kind of saying like, look, this was the problem, I isolated the problems, the issues, the parties, I speak to them one-on-one, I try to sort of get to the bottom, find a solution, and resolve towards a common goal, which is generally completing that project. Yeah. So definitely something that I would suggest is that's just a very small selection of competency or behavioural questions. Like pick out a list. Something I always say to people is, you can do as simple as have a random number generator and a list of questions. So you just Google random number generator, you could have 20 questions, and you just click next number, question 7, cool. 2 minutes on the clock, let's answer that. Question 12, cool. And again, and what this helps you to do is it just gives that element of randomness and also sort of pressure, because you want to introduce that in your training. Something we stress again and again, and you see it in all walks of life, particularly in athletics, right, is where they're really saying, like we practice hard to compete easy. And I realize it may seem a little bit strange to talk about athletics, but something that I've really, in kind of putting together all these frameworks for our clients, is to think like, look, we're going to do pressure testing, we're going to test you hard, because then when you get to the real thing, you're going to realize that's easy. And that's something personally I've really gained from training in martial arts over the years. So finally, talking about the SJT questions, these are going to be sort of rank response answers, so ranking 5 answers in terms of best to worst. Really, this is just practice, so this is pretty rinse and repeat. I thoroughly recommend that you use Job Test Prep. We use it with all our clients. We've got a really good relationship with them. They've been around since 1992. They've got a really comprehensive package of tests at a reasonable price. If you want to find out more about them, you can find a link in the description to this video, and of course the disclaimer, we are an affiliate with them because we use them. Anyway, with SJT questions, I always just say, err on the side of caution, use your common sense, and also think about just what's the safest and most risk-averse way to solve this problem. So there you have it. That's KPMG's Immersive Online Assessment. What company do you want us to cover next? Drop a comment in the description below. I think now we've covered the big 6 for the professional services companies, so we're sort of thinking about what we're going to do for next week. We cover well over 150 different companies with our clients, so there's lots for us to kind of get through. But if you've got a particular interview coming up or something that you want to kind of learn about, drop it in the comments, and we'll see what we can do. So finally, as promised, I wanted to talk to you about how KPMG differs from the rest of the Big Four's assessment. And I thought that this was really cute, actually. So they do a critical thinking test, which comes after the Immersive Online Assessment and before the assessment centre. So this to many candidates will seem strange, because of course you sort of assume, like, I finished the interview and now I'm going to go to the assessment centre, I'm going to fail. But actually what they do is they've got 30 minutes to answer 10 questions. Critical thinking is kind of where you've got these tabs, you've got graphs and pages and emails and different bits and pieces, and then you collate all this information together to then come to a conclusion. This isn't so rare in the fact that this is something that companies used to do, and if you're wondering why is KPMG doing this, it's basically just to stop people cheating. So it doesn't happen so much anymore, but people used to cheat on the online tests that get retested during the assessment centre, and it's just a way of getting retested under time conditions. But for sure, if you've already been successful up until this point, you'll find the critical thinking test a breeze. And without further ado, that's all from me. Hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you next week. Bye.